Today, guys, we are going to be doing a challenge, and not just any challenge. We're going to be doing a challenge over one of the best fan games that have came out in the recent years. You guys will be talking about, what is this fan game? Is it Pokemon Xenoverse? Is it Pokemon this? Is it Pokemon that? No, guys, we're talking about a fan game that has gone completely under the radar, and while yes, a lot of people have seen it, I feel like not enough people have actually, talked about it, because it is one of the best fan games you guys can go ahead and play right now, and it is in English, and we're going to be talking about none other than Pokémon Rowlet system. Now, this is a Pokemon fan game with Gen 5 graphics that look freaking amazing, custom tile sets in certain locations, an amazing, completely brand new story in a completely new region unknown to us, with 3 Fakemon starters. And we're not just going to be doing any normal playthrough in this video, guys. We are going to be doing a Nuzlocke run. Now, I want to tell you guys, go ahead, I'm not going to be explaining my Nuzlocke rules or anything like that. If you guys want to know, hey, all the rules for this Nuzlocke and everything that's going on with it, check the description below, as well as the pinned comment. I will have it in the pinned comment as well. And if you guys also want to know one thing, I am going to be doing a completely blind playthrough, and when I mean completely blind, I mean completely blind. I know nothing about this game besides the screenshots I've seen and the very few small YouTubers I've seen play at the very beginning of the game. This is going to be completely new to me, and if I win this Nuzlocke challenge or if I lose it, you guys are going to get an interesting video one way or another. So hey, if you guys really want to know more and see more about this game and more Pokemon fan games and videos just like this in the future, remember, subscribe to the channel, and remember to also like the video, because liking the video goes a long way. So yeah, enough wasting your guys' time. Let's go ahead and hop right on into Pokemon Rowlet system. Now, we go ahead here, and I'm just going through a lot of the menus and seeing what's available within the game, and I must go ahead and say that the starter choices in this game are going to be very, very interesting. So, the starters that you get in the game at the very start of the game are a Fire Psychic type, a Water Dark type, and a Grass Fairy type. Now, I instantly want to go ahead here and just start off the game with the Water type, and I'm going to explain a lot more about that in a second, but first off, I want to show you guys a little bit about the story. So, first off, we start with Professor Haya. She is the professor of this completely brand new region, as well as also telling people, hey, if you paid for this fan game, you kind of got scammed, so remember, don't do that as well. Or any resources that the game does have in the game, so don't steal those either, because this took a lot of time and a lot of work. But yeah, we start in the Astoria region, and we go ahead here and we start with a really beautiful helicopter scene where 2 random grunts seem to be inviting or kind of welcoming this brand new figure who jumps out, and this is none other than Jeremy. Now, Jeremy is, or Jeremiah, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but yes, the character of Jeremiah is pretty interesting, because he's actually an apprentice for this character that we meet later on in the game, and her name is Liliana. And you end up finding out that essentially their corporation is talking about a brand new system that is being used, that is still unstable, is consuming a lot more power than they expected, and in terms of research and everything else, that he's in charge of that, and that Liliana is kind of more on the head of the business side, kind of the figure in the back leader type group, and you find out a lot more about her later, but she is a very interesting character. And honestly, it's just like, after you kind of get to know him, and you're really hoping to figure out what this experiment is, what's going on with her, and what's going on with this weird corporation and this brand new system that seems to be taking way too much power to physically operate. So here the grunt goes ahead and tells him that the report is finished, and that something is definitely wrong, and that essentially they've ran out of supplies, and that they really need to check it over again. But the grunt does confirm with him that no, this is all correct, this is not a joke, this is not out of the calculations, and that they need to contact their headquarters, and that they're going to talk to somebody named Teresa, with another character we meet later on. And we kind of just show us a little start of the game here with this beautiful sunset. Oh my god, just look at that, guys. And how the fact that they're going to show the world the Rowlet system, the very thing that the game is named after. Now, we move over here to the start of where our journey starts, in Jasper Village, and they asked me, do I want to play as the boy or the girl, and obviously I am a boy, as you guys can hear my voice, that's what I identify as, and I'm gonna go here and put my name in as Rev. Now you guys can see here, this is beautiful custom sprite, looks really good. I must say, really like the character design on this, but I am gonna be named Rev, and I am gonna be picking the boy for this playthrough, and we start here in the small little town of Jasper Village. So the game starts with my mom essentially telling Perugly, could she go ahead here and get me out of bed? Because hey, just like every other Pokemon game, something very interesting is going to have to happen to me. And surprisingly on the TV, an Elite Four member is being challenged and defeated, and now essentially the reigning champion is going to have a battle against the person who just deleted that Elite Four member. So yeah, the Perugly goes ahead here and just runs up to my room and wakes me up essentially. Also, you guys can see this beautiful animated cutscene as well of me just snoring in my bed as the Perugly hops on and takes his sweet time waking up myself. Okay, so after I go ahead here and wake up, I go ahead here and head downstairs to meet up with my mom and see what's going on. And funny enough, the champion goes ahead and is talking to the apparently person who challenged her after she won her match. And they tell me to have a nice day, and then essentially my mom goes ahead and catches me up a little bit on what happened with the battle, and that essentially I can't really judge anybody. But also a friend named Elliot is waiting for me outside, so I might as well go ahead and meet up with him, and she goes ahead and here and gives me the running shoes so now I can run. As soon as I walk outside, I end up meeting with Elliot, who ends up taking a surprise picture of me, essentially, and this is when we go ahead and meet him. Now, he's a very, very close character to the main character, and essentially you get this little choice of what you want to ask him here. It doesn't really change too much on which one you pick, but hey, you know, it's pretty cool, to say the least. And essentially that he got a brand new camera, and that he's hoping to take a lot of pictures of rare Pokemon, and that he's going to go ahead and hop over to a cliffside so that he can take more pictures, and essentially just so I can get ready, get the good controls, and kind of explore a little bit. But I do go ahead here and meet him at the cliffside, and we can see a lot of beautiful Pokemon flying around. And as you guys can tell, if you guys can't see already, yes, there is Pokemon up to, I believe, Generation 7 or 8. It's one of the two. But yeah, so the truth is essentially that he's going to be leaving town to become a photographer for the first time, and he's going to be very working a lot to be able to, you know, see the entire story region, and, you know, essentially that he's going to be leaving. And so essentially he asked me, do I want to come with him? And obviously I want to be a Pokemon trainer, and so we have to be able to go on a Pokemon journey together. And so essentially he ends up telling me about Professor Haya, which apparently she has Pokemon that she might be able to give to us. So I want to go ahead and meet her at her lab. So while I go ahead here and try to go in, yeah, we start hearing a lot of screaming, a lot of curse words, and a lot of people throwing stuff, and it's very, 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 and I mean very confusing. And Elliot essentially says, hey, he forgot a few things and that he needs to go pack up his backpack, so essentially he will leave me to deal with the professor by myself. You know, kind of get out of the situation. But hey, I walk in and instantly the professor is having a meltdown, and her Chatot is going crazy on who knows what. We absolutely do not know what is wrong with this Chatot at the time, but yeah, essentially he asked me, hey, can I go grab a Pokemon from the side room and help calm down the Chatot? And here we meet the 3 starters, and the 3 starters are a lot, but I go ahead here and pick Gullaby. Now this is the Water Duck Pokemon. He is the one who evolves into the Water Dark Pokemon that I was mentioning earlier. I go ahead here, and since he is my first encounter, my first Pokemon, I go ahead here and I name him Gaxley, based off of Quaxley from obviously Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because that's who he kind of reminds me of. So after I go ahead here and I pick him as my starter, which at the time, I want to go ahead and explain my mindset for picking him. And honestly, after doing this run, I definitely have to say, for a future reference, this is probably the worst starter you could pick. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Like I said, I went in completely blind. I did not know any of the encounters, any of the mons and things you can get in this game, but he is kind of the worst one. Water typing was really good to me because I didn't expect to be able to get a lot of good water typing, as well as also because he's a bird. I assumed that he would learn Peck. That's just kind of natural, and he does end up learning Peck later on. You guys will be able to see that, but you know, most Pokemon. So I thought, hey, that water flying type of early game would set me up to, you know, be able to get through a lot of stuff, as well as have a really unique Pokemon. But after I defeat the Chatot, she essentially thanks me for calming it down, and essentially is able to, you know, tell her researcher to decide to, hey, you know, he needs to feed the Chatot because, you know, sometimes they forget, and yeah, you know, when he's not fully fed, he gets a little bit, you know, crazy. But yeah, So they end up becoming best friends, and I end up telling her exactly who I am. I remind her of my name, that I'm Rev, and that essentially I came here because I want a Pokemon. I mean, what else would I be here for? I wanted a Pokemon so I could travel around the region, and so she essentially gives me the Gullaby because obviously it got attached to me. But obviously I had to have one condition, and after scrolling through her stuff for a while, you already know what it is. It is going to be a Pokédex. Obviously I'm going to have to record the Pokédex and see and capture, but this is a Nuzlocke run, so you know I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to be catching the first Pokemon that shows up on every route, and that's about it. But hey, if you do catch a lot of Pokemon and you come back to her later on, she does give you some rewards. So hey, you know, for anybody else who's looking to play the game, which there will be a link in the description by the way, you guys will have that. And so after that, she essentially just tells me, hey, have a fun time on your adventure, and I go ahead and meet back up with my mom. So after I tell my mom essentially about, you know, the Pokemon she gave me and that I wanted to leave home, she essentially agrees, you know, let me leave home, and you know, obviously, you know, that I can become a trainer. But she does want to go ahead here and give me a small gift before I leave, and that's going to be none other than, as you guys can see, some Pokeballs, potions, and a map. So essentially at this point my Nuzlocke has begun. When I see the first Pokemon on the next route, I will be able to catch them, so that's really a plus. So before we leave the town, I'm going to go ahead here and talk with Elliot, and essentially he's telling us, hey, we're ready to go. Let's go, you know, take some pictures of some Pokemon and figure out what's going on. So I head over to Route 1, and I decide, you know, quickly just going to go ahead here, see what I can explore, and get my first encounter. Now, my first encounter on this route is going to be none other than a Pikipek, which is actually pretty unlucky, because when you actually go back, you'll see a lot of the other Pokemon you can get here, they're a lot better than that Pikipek. But hey, I capture the Pikipek, and, you know, add him to the team, and I go ahead here and I name him Cannon Event. Now, if you guys don't even know what's going on about Cannon Event, come on, bro, y'all guys had to have seen Into the Spider-Verse, because he is my Cannon Event, bro. He's gonna be here for the team. He's gonna hold it down, and hopefully he's, you know, going to actually, you know, be a valuable member to this team, which you guys will be able to see a lot, you know, a little bit later in the run, definitely. But yeah, go ahead here, catch him, and I just named him Cannon Event, and go ahead and just add him straight on to the team as my first caught Pokemon. So after I do that, I go ahead here and I battle some of the trainers that are on Route 1. None of them are really surprising. I kind of just go through, clear them out. But I do meet this man who's just in a house, and he essentially accuses me of breaking into his house and just tells me to get lost. So I say okay and leave. After that, I end up talking to this water type trainer, and he ends up telling me that, hey, you're a water type enthusiast, here, have an old rod. And so yeah, you get the old rod really early in this game. Which is great. So after I get done with Route 1, I head over to Berylio Village, and I decided to use my old rod in Berylio Village to try to get a water type encounter, which yet again, like I already said, I didn't expect to get the old rod this early, but I do end up catching something, and it is going to be none other than the Goldeen. Now, another really rare thing in this game, as you guys can see, is there isn't a normal fishing mechanic. It has a circle that you have to close in on a ring. You kind of do that to be able to catch Pokemon. It's super cool, super unique, it's super different from normal Pokemon games. So hey, you kind of get a nice little mini game out of being able to fish, instead of just having a normal Pokemon battle where it would just be, hey, catch an encounter, move on, catch an encounter, move on. But yeah, I do decide to name the Goldeen Reking, and decide to move on. So after that, we meet up with Elliot, who essentially tells us, hey, you know, you can go to Pokemon centers if you're out of potions and you need to heal. So yeah, and I also want to go ahead here and take on the gym challenge. So to be able to do that, I need to go to the academy west of the town, and so they'll be able to give me a trainer card there. And then essentially he also tells me about a peculiar professor, which we may meet a little bit later on inside the academy. So I go here and I end up seeing this green-haired student here who is asking, you know, who do they think I am? Who is this guy? You know, she's in the receptionist is telling him, you know, stop yelling, calm down, you're gonna be fine. But there's no one on duty apparently, except for one professor, which just happens to be the peculiar professor Elliot was mentioning earlier. But hey, without a shadow of a doubt, because he goes ahead here and just challenges me to a random Pokemon battle, because why not, I guess. But yeah, no, he ends up having the starter that is weak to mine, as well as a Helioptile. So yeah, that was kind of cool. But yeah, so after I beat him, you know, he's kind of a little bit, you know, trying to laugh it off, and we end up meeting this interesting professor. Now, this interesting professor ends up walking out and, you know, coming up to us and asking us, you know, what's with all the ruckus? What is going on? Why is this dude screaming? Why are they having a Pokemon battle in the middle of our academy? You know, all this stuff. What is going on with this man? Like, what is going on with this man? And it is funny with the Joltik in his hair and everything else. He does look really, really cool. I do gotta say that. I do gotta say he looked cool. All right. But yeah, no, he essentially just asks us what he just wants to be left alone. But yeah, he is the peculiar Professor Elliot ended up mentioning, and his name is Simon. So yeah, so anyway, there's more called future trainers that disturbed him, and he essentially just asks us, what do we want? And we end up finding out that this trainer's name is Owen, and that he wants to take on the gyms in the Astoria Pokemon League. And so because of that, not an original story. Everyone and their mama want to take on this league and win. Obviously, nobody doesn't want to be the champion, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, he's a little sick of hearing that. And he couldn't, he's asking, couldn't you be a little bit more original? And he asked me what I want. I'm just like, yo, bro, I just want a trainer's license, boy. But yeah, he starts calling him Lepa Boy. Kind of hating on the boy a little bit, kind of hating on the boy a little bit. But hey, yo, I am for real, and I do want to end up getting this trainer's license. So yeah, we end up finding out that it's weird. He does make fun of Owen a lot. Also, that happens throughout the story quite a lot. I do like the humor that is shown throughout the story of what he does. I do think it is pretty interesting. But essentially, we start going over this little bit of a kind of trial system so we can get our trainer license to actually show that we're having that battle experience. And so essentially, we have to go ahead here. We have challenge 3 students around the school. And be able to beat them in battle to be able to kind of move on to the second stage of getting our trainer license. So yeah, Owen wants to go ahead and heal up his Pokemon from our fight. So he's going to go ahead and go to the nurse's office, and I'm going to essentially just beat the crap out of all 3 of those trainers with little to no effort. There was literally nothing hard about them whatsoever. And so he introduces us to another system within the game as the second part of the trainer license kind of thing for me to be able to actually get my license, the trainer trial. So I'm going to have to do favors in the town, and favors are essentially side missions. Now in the game, a bunch of characters later on will give you a lot of side missions. Now I had to go ahead here and save this chick here. She ended up having her bracelet stolen by a Purloin. And I go ahead here, also head over to Route 2 before I actually deal with this, and I do pick up this Poliwag as an encounter. Now yet again, guys, I did have to fight this Purloin, like I said, but, I do also catch it because it is a static encounter, so I just want to let you guys know that, hey, yeah, I did catch both of those, so yeah, I did get those as encounters, but we do the little side quest, and we end up actually moving on, and essentially, just being able to actually, talk to him and get our trainer's license, which is super cool. He also gives us the EXP share. Now, the EXP share does work like a Gen 8 EXP share, so it does give, experience to all Pokemon in my party. So, hey, you guys, like that, shorter time span, whatever, it's pretty good. Now, we do walk outside, and suddenly all of the lights in the area have gone out. It's a complete blackout, and Simon walks up and he's asking, what's going on? He can't even see anything that's going on. Just what happened to all the power? And essentially, there's a power station in Route 2, which is the area I went to do my side quest. And so on that, we go ahead and we follow Simon to the power plant to kind of find out, what is going on, why is all the, lights out, why is the power gone, and apparently the power plant does have actual power. And so since the power plant has power, there's definitely something going on here, and we're going to have to investigate. And he also did give me a new nickname as well, if you guys did see a little text there. But yeah, he did apparently see some suspicious guys that are very similar to the grunts that we saw in the original opening cutscene around here. So, we might as well go ahead with the professor and investigate a little bit. And obviously, Simon told us to wait outside. He didn't want us to get, in trouble and help out with crooks. So, we were supposed to wait outside, but we decided to just come in with him. And apparently a grunt, or a recruit really, goes ahead and tells us, yo, there's intruders here, somebody else needs to deal with them. We run through and we instantly trigger a electric barrier. So essentially now Simon cannot help us, and we are by ourselves having to fight these weird evil grunts. Yeah, so we quickly find out as another one shows up, that there's going to be intruders, and that it's just 2 kids who don't even have a license, so they don't even think that, hey, we're a big deal. So they just say, hey, leave it to the rest of the grunts, we're going to run off, and we're going to do our own thing. So the professor tells us not to do anything stupid, but Owen's like, yo, let's join forces, and let's fight our way through here. And so we end up fighting the Metis Corporation, that we end up finding out is their name, and that they're using a really weird system to be able to somehow control Pokemon. It's really weird. So after this, we go ahead here and we find out, yo, what are they doing to this Pokemon? And they're really surprised that we ended up getting this far, obviously because they have a bunch of grunts in the way. And then they pull out these mysterious little thin screens from pure air and essentially start controlling this Vikavolt. Now, this Vikavolt is terrifying. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, at this point, I was not expecting to fight a level 10 Vikavolt. I'm just going to be real with you guys. I was not expecting that. I'm level 9. I have a water type. Like I said, yet again, the worst type, like the worst mon you could possibly pick to be able to fight this. But he does go here for the pound, and I go for the peck, doing 4 damage. He lands a struggle bug on me, and yeah, that did 15 damage. As you guys can clearly see, your boy is going to be struggling a little bit with this one, or so I thought. How am I going to beat this? What can I do? So go ahead here and switch out into the Purloin that I did end up calling Slide, that I did catch as a static encounter. And, you know, obviously Helioptile is just slowly weakening. He gets hit with a Thunder Shock, and boom, just like that, goes down in 1 hit. At this point, I've lost all hope in this run. I'm expecting to lose right here and right now, but all luck just points to me just being able to clutch it, because, man, like, my entire team is weak to electric types, and I'm just like, what am I gonna do here? And I say I have no choice but to Tail Whip. I need to Tail Whip, lower the defense, and just pray to God Helioptile can kill this Vikavolt before my entire team gets swept. That is all I have to do, and that's literally all I can do. But here we decide to both go for Tail Whip, so we both lower his defense twice, and he decides to go for Thunder Wave instead of just using Thunder Shock. Super lucky there. Instead of going for another Tail Whip, I decided to go for Peck, hopefully making the Helioptile yet again hit. He does land that pound, still does no damage. He tries to use Thunder Wave again. I got really lucky with the AI right there. Yet again, going for another peck. Helioptile lands a pound, does 9 damage. He's so close to dead. He lands the Thunder Shock on Reking. Fortunately, Reking is going to have to go down and die already, so he didn't really get a life. But hey, switch in cannon event, and at this point, I'm just praying, you know, Peck do enough damage to kill. He lands the pound. Luckily enough, he lives, but I did lose like 3 members on my team. It is a lot. But yeah, I do end up winning Confuse right here, which really comes in clutch later on, and actually is how I actually win a couple of battles, which you guys will be able to see. But hey, we end up leveling up there and defeating these grunts. So after that, the obviously Charger Bug run out of the room, and essentially, you know, the grunts are like, yo, we're not going to forget this, we're going to tell our higher ups. And they run away, like normal, you know, that's kind of just how evil team members, you know, do. So, after they get run over, Simon essentially comes back, and he's like, yo, what happened? And we essentially tell them that, hey, we stopped them from sabotaging the power plant, and let his return to the town and the academy, and so essentially that he wants to come back and explain to us what exactly is going on. So, we end up going down to kind of a basement area within the academy that Simon is currently living in. And he essentially admits to us that, hey, these guys are part of the Metis Corporation, a group of scientists that are using Pokemon for themselves through a unique system. And this system essentially channels the connections and bonds between Pokemon and people and creates a false bond, forcing Pokemon to do their bidding, to do their will. And is essentially the main sort of problem slash main, I guess you could say, gimmick of the entire game. But it's great if it's used on well-hearted trainers, but on bad-hearted trainers, it's really bad, and they can use it to essentially control any Pokemon that they want. So after a while, Simon decides to go ahead, check my Pokedex for a second, and he gives it back to me, and he essentially asked, you know, I hope I don't regret doing this, and now I own my own copy of this system. But it's different than the one that the Metis Corporation has, because I can truly form a real bond with Pokemon and use it for the benefit of Pokemon. Kind of like the good version of it versus the bad version of it. The same way how good people, you know, in original Pokemon games can still Mega Evolve, while bad people can also still Mega Evolve. That type of thing. But yeah, it does have a healing function, a repel function, a leveling function, and a lot of other things that I will be using throughout the run. Obviously, it's not all free. There is a point system that you get for doing favors and completing main story quests, so essentially it's a very balanced system that you do get to end up using later on. But Simon does end up putting his faith in essentially a bunch of kids, and then hopefully that the system will be better alongside me, you know, working with my Pokemon. as well, and just try and, you know, improve the system and make sure it's not used by bad people like the Metis Corporation. But yeah, no, he does tell us that the name of the system is the Rowlet system. Like I said, Pokemon Rowlet system, makes sense. And essentially that he gives me and Owen our own trainer licenses, and that essentially he already regrets giving Owen his. I don't blame him. But, you know, essentially we want to go head over to Cornelia City so that we can get our first gym badge and a lot more. So I go ahead here real quickly, just run through this route, and I make my way to Lacrine Forest, where I get a Spinnerack as an encounter. Now, this is a pretty clutch encounter. I don't usually use Spinnerack. Why? Because he's garbage. But this was pretty cool. So essentially, right before we get into the next town, I meet up with a small little trainer who ends up catching all the Charger Bug that were in the power plant, but they end up running off because they still haven't recovered from, you know, obviously the use of the Rowlet system. So he asks me, hey, can you go, you know, take them? They've accumulated too much electricity, and can you bring them back to me? So I go ahead here and I just quickly run through the forest, fighting all the trainers, healing as much as I possibly can, and just kind of finding all of the Charger Bug until I meet this unique little lady right here. And I gotta say, she's probably one of the best characters in the game so far. But yeah, she does ask if I need anything, and yo, hey, where's this Charger Bug come from? And she also has a copy of the Rowlet system. And so she asked me, yo, are you a trainer? And I go, yeah, I did come for the Charger Bug, and essentially, you know, that she's already discharged all the energy he has, and that he's apparently calmer now. So she ends up noticing that inside my Pokedex, I have a copy of the Rowlet system. And so she tells me that her name is Teresa, the character we were talking about earlier, and she is the current lead member of the Metis Corporation, and that she would love to stay and chat with me, but she does have to go. But she would appreciate it if I could stay out of their business, kind of, you know, stay away from the evil team, don't want to do that. And, you know, essentially the person who gave me the Rowlet system, they haven't forgot about him. They are going to be coming for Simon. And yeah, so I come back to him with all the Charger Bug essentially afterwards, and he ends up telling me that he is the gym leader of the next town, Cornelia City, and that essentially he gives me some honey so that I can put honey on a honey tree, obviously, and get, you know, some unique honey Pokemon. That is a pretty normal mechanic in, you know, a lot of Pokemon games. So I head over to Route 3 right before Cornelia City, and I catch a Rowlet as an encounter. Now this is also, yet again, another clutch encounter who I end up meeting up and, you know, keeping and using a lot later on in the run. It really just a fun mon to have. Love Rowlet, and I do name him Blades. Now after that, to the side, before I go into the next city, there is a small area known as the farm. You can buy Moo Moo Milks here, as well as get some really, and I mean really, rare encounters within the grass. As you guys can clearly see, I get a Chikorita. That is an amazing encounter. Now there is better encounters here, but I do go ahead here and catch this Chikorita, and I do... you know, obviously it takes a while because it's Chikorita's a starter Pokemon, so they're not easy to catch. But I do catch this Chikorita, and I do name it after one of my best pals, my boy Spam. And I go ahead here and head up to Cornelia City. Now, after I heal up and I do a little bit of training, I do try to go into the gym, and essentially Owen tells me, hey, you know, I already got this gym badge, but, you know, he doesn't have the strength to fight me right now because he just fought the gym leader, but he'll fight me the next time we see each other. And I say, okay. And I go ahead here and I hop into the gym. Now, this is one of the very unique and interesting ideas and concepts of this game. Now, each gym has a unique gimmick to it, besides just being a normal type of gym. So, this is a bug type gym, but it has a really unique gimmick in the mist. Now, there's mist within rooms that you have to be able to navigate your way through, battling trainers, as well as talking to Combees to get rid of the mist. But if you do not stay out of the mist, your Pokemon end up having status effects put on them, essentially before you get into fights. It's a very interesting gimmick, and while yeah, it does take a little bit of time consuming, it does not affect bug and I believe flying type Pokemon. So obviously I was always leading with Cannon Event, so I did not get those status conditions, and then I could keep my Pokemon as healthy as possible before I fought the gym leader, which was, you know, super expected to be. But yeah, I do end up meeting up with the gym leader eventually. Then again, and so we finally arrived, and his ace Pokemon is going to be none other than Vespiquen, which is going to be pretty cool. And so I go ahead here and I have my first gym battle against Abby. So, Abby essentially challenges me. He has 3 Pokemon. I have 6 at this point. So he leads off with a Dewpider. I go ahead here and I peck, easily taking out a lot of health, but he does hit me with a Bulb Beam. That does a lot of damage as well. He heals. I go for another peck, and yet again, I'm just going to finish it off with another peck. Keep it clean, keep it simple, keep it moving. So I am going to go ahead here and also teach him Supersonic. Like I said, Confusion in this game is very, very good. I highly recommend a lot of people do it. And honestly, I was never going to use Echoed Voice anyway, so you know, might as well just teach him Supersonic and keep it pushing. Now, he does try to switch into Anorith. Anorith is kind of risky. So here I decide to switch into, I believe I switch into Gaxley here. Yes, I do. Go ahead, switch into Gaxley. I try to go for the Aqua Jet because he does learn Aqua Jet early on. Does a lot of damage. He hardens. Doesn't really matter too much to me. Aqua Jet again, scratch. Doesn't matter. I have priority with Aqua Jet. We get the nice clean kill there. I get level 15 as well as level 14. And then we move on to kind of his ace Pokemon. Which at this point, my entire team, yet again, is weak to flying. So I was super scared of this thing. I Confuse Ray it. Obviously, I gotta keep him confused. He does land the Struggle Bug. That does a decent amount of damage, as well as lowering my special attack. At this point, I go for the Moo heal. That's all I can do. I can kind of just heal stall for a little bit. And he does keep just going for Struggle Bug. It is doing a lot of damage. Yet again, breaks out of Confuse Ray for turn 1. Hit it with him again. He goes for the Fail Stinger, still doing damage to me. I go back for another heal, hoping that this confusion lasts. He breaks for the confusion again. He just keeps hitting me. He just keeps hitting me, just keeps hitting me, weakening me, just getting me lower and lower and lower. At this point, I'm wondering, what am I going to do? All my Pokemon are not really tanky. We can't really take hints from him. He's the only one who could do this. Am I going to go ahead and lose the run right here, right now? I have to go for the Peck. I land the Peck. It's super effective, but still does nothing. I get hit with confusion as well, and at this point, I'm just like, I had to switch. I had to figure something out. So I switch into my boy Rax here. Now, I was fully expecting to be able to just, you know, throw Rax out the window. Struggle Bug was already doing that much. There really wasn't much else I could do anyway. And I was really just hoping here. I was like, do I want a String Shot, lower the speed? Do I want a Poison Sting and pray for a poison? And at the end of the day, I was like, screw it. I have to String Shot. I want to have this thing have the lowest speed possible so I can have as many Pokemon hit this thing and do as much damage as possible. Essentially. So I go for the String Shot here. I do lower that. He does land the Fail Stinger. It does like no damage. And originally here I was just going to go for the Poison Sting. Go for the Poison Sting. And I get so lucky. And I get the poison. He lives on 2 health. That was very, very clutch. Because at this point I have barely any potions left. So I decided to Super Potion him up. Right, he goes for Fail Stinger. Yet again, that's not doing anything to me. And at this point I'm just like, screw it. I'm just going to Constrict. I'm going to Constrict with the poison. He goes for the Confuse Ray. Doesn't matter. Still getting damage off of the poison. We're doing great. Go for another Poison Sting. Break through the confusion. Hit it. It's still doing good damage. He's still Struggle Bugging me. He's still weakening me. I'm doing everything that I possibly can. You know, I'm keeping the potions up. I'm doing as much as I possibly can to just keep Rax alive. Keep him in the game. I'm just waiting for the poison to will him down. I'm just like, at this point, Rax is doing everything. We hit him with another Poison Sting. He hits me with a Struggle Bug. Yet again, I still live. Doesn't get the crit. And Vespiquen goes down. And with that, I end up getting my first gym badge, which was just freaking insane. I had to say, I did not expect Spinarak to come through, but Gaxley does end up evolving right after the gym, which is super helpful because I needed that extra power. This little duck was just, he wasn't cutting it, and now he really should be. So I'm very excited to see, you know, where this evolution goes. And hopefully, you know, just see how he ends up being. But yeah, he does evolve into a Cygle, which looks super dope. And I mean, you cannot tell me that this would have been an amazing evolution for normal Quaxley. Compared to Quaxwell, it's no competition. Come on, man. But I do end up getting the Bug Badge, which is super dope. Cool looking as well. After I leave, Simon essentially pops up and he asks me on the reality system, you know, how is everything going? I tell him, you know, hey, I want a gym badge. And essentially that he gives me access to, I believe it was Cut. And I go ahead here and I start off with getting more favors because after you defeat a gym leader, you're able to get a lot more favors. And this favor / side quest, which I'm not going to be showing all my side quests that I do, but I wanted to show this one because I end up getting a static encounter, or really a gift encounter, out of doing this one. And I end up finding this guy who used to be a part of a gang, who essentially doesn't want to be part of the gang anymore. And he gives me a Decidueye suit so that I can essentially go meet up with the leader of the gang and tell him, hey, that this guy is done with the gang and that he doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. And, you know, I was like, okay, kind of interesting, you know, to see what's going on. I go back to the forest, I end up finding a cave, I put on the suit, and I end up finding my way all the way down here, kind of meeting up with these other people who are also dressed up in Decidueye suits in the Rabino cave. And I end up talking with the leader of the cave, and instead of just letting me, you know, obviously just go, we end up having to have a bunch of battles with a lot of these people who end up having Dartrix as their Pokemon. Like, a lot of them just have Dartrix or like a Rowlet. They're like kind of like a Rowlet group. They don't really hurt anybody. They don't really steal Pokemon or anything like that. They're just really obsessed with Rowlet. It's kind of weird. But after I do end up fighting one of them, I do end up evolving my Pikipek into a Trumbeak, which is really cool. And after I go ahead here, I solve all this guy's puzzles, I beat the crap out of all of his gang members, he goes ahead and gives me a static Rowlet. A static Rowlet encounter, guys. Rowlet, one of my favorite Pokemon, as well as obviously a Gen 7 Pokemon. My Gen 7 starter. So I go ahead here and I just name him Deck and I add him to the team, obviously, because he's going to be incredible. He's going to be amazing. And we head right on over to Route 4, where I meet up with Elliot, who obviously tells me, hey, hey, you got a badge. I took a lot of pictures in the forest, and now we're going to be heading over to Jade City, which is going to be a very stylish, city where I can also get my second badge, as well as giving me a citrus berry, and essentially that he will see me in the next city, which is cool. Now, in this route, I do end up getting a Rock and Roll as an encounter, which is pretty good. Another encounter that I could use. I don't know if there's a way to evolve him in this game just yet, but hey, any encounter is better than no encounter, right? Just adding to my repertoire, adding to the team, and I end up naming him Gigaman, and yeah, he ends up becoming like a really big part of the team. Now, after this, I kind of just go back and I level up a lot. I start doing some training, fighting through the trainers, and I do go ahead here and evolve my Rowlet into a Dartrix, which is super dope, and I head over to the next city, which is going to be Jade City. And I meet up with Elliot, who tells me about a very nice girl who he met that apparently they asked about some guys who were wearing some black wear, strange glasses, things that were kind of, we've seen before, and essentially they sound like trouble. And her name was essentially Alba, and that essentially that he was going to go to the Pokemon Center and kind of heal up. But he also did give me a photo camera for myself, because in this game, if you do hit P on your keyboard when you're playing it, you can actually take screenshots and actually have like in-game screenshots and things like that of the game. So I ended up going into the forest and I ended up meeting up with this girl that obviously, he told me beforehand that, is Alba. Now, she actually confuses me for a Metis Corporation member because I have the Realidea system, and she decides to pick a fight with me. Now, her team is not particularly great, except for this Braviary. This Braviary is level 60, and I was terrified. I thought, this is going to be just one of those forced losses, but luckily, she made it to where essentially Braviary just doesn't attack you, but she does have a starter that is stronger against yours, but for me, because I already have Deck, none of that was a problem, and essentially I just clear her out with little to no ease. Now after that, she essentially, apologizes for making a mistake. She tells me that she's Alba, which is daughter of the champion, which is Liana, the character we heard earlier, which is pretty cool, and that essentially that we did see her on TV essentially at the start of the game. And essentially that the Metis Corporation ended up making her use a version of the Realidea system that was forcing her Braviary to fight and do everything that she said when the bond wasn't exactly real, and that she was actually making her Braviary suffer because she was using the same Realidea system as the Metis Corporation. So yet again, she asked, hey, I need some help taking them out. Can we do some double battles? But she is kind of a little bit inexperienced and, doesn't know too much. But I do go ahead here and cut down a little piece of bamboo to try to get this little Pokemon behind it, and bada bing bada boom, a Bonzi pops out, so hey, I'm going to catch that as a static encounter. It's going to be Kulawudo, and we're just going to go ahead here and just fight our way through these Metis Corporations by ourselves, since we can't fight alongside Alba, until we get to the very end of this kind of small little forest route. And I do got to say, there was a lot of cool Pokemon you could have got up in here, but I ended up finding out that Teresa is here, and that she is trying to awaken none other than the Ultra Beast, Celesteela, funny enough. So yeah, no, she's trying to awaken Celesteela, and we also find out that her brother is actually Jeremiah, who Alba finds out is actually, also part of the Metis Corporation, and is the person who essentially made the Realidea system. And so after that, she essentially just asks like, hey, this isn't supposed to be used, this is bad, you can't force people to use Pokemon. And so we have to fight these two grunts before she can awaken Celesteela. Now obviously they're grunts, they're not going to be difficult, I'm going to be able to clear them out with little to no issue. And essentially, hey, she wakes up Celesteela, and we just tell her, hey, we're not going to let this slide. And I'm not going to take your advice about not getting into the Metis Corporation's business, and Alba heals my Pokemon, and after this I go ahead here and I have a fight with Teresa, which is going to be pretty cool. So after we go ahead here and I have my first fight with her, she ends up starting with a Braixen. Yet again, not going to be a problem for me. I have multiple water types on my team at this point. We're good. So I go ahead here and I decide to keep out my water starter as she has a Delosion. Now I was just really thinking this was going to be for some reason a grass starter. I think that's the only reason why I stayed in. But I was able to easily clear it out as well. And then her final Pokemon is going to be a Finneon. That's going to mean nothing to my Dartrix, so a quick and easy win. And after we win, obviously Celesteela goes back into the ground and reburies itself, mostly because the reality system is having problems. And so essentially because they cannot get energy from Celesteela anymore, she agrees to leave, but they won't forget about us, and they will come back. So after that, we end up talking with Alba, and she does, tell us, oh, yeah, we let them get away, but hey, she can talk to her mother about it, which her mother is actually the biggest financial leader, as we heard earlier in the story, for the Metis Corporation. So we're going to talk to her in Crystal City, which is the next city over. But before we do that, I have to go ahead here and meet up a little bit with Owen. And he's with a particular girl, which looks, pretty cool design, like a cat girl design. And essentially, he asks, what happened? Like, how'd you get here before me? I want to challenge the gym leader. And so essentially, he just challenges me to a fight because, he wants to fight the gym leader first before me. But he's Owen, weaker starter than mine. You know what I'm saying? My boy ain't doing all that, right? So I put him in a body bag. All right, I put him in a body bag. And he's gonna have to be the one to run to the Pokemon Center, and I finally get to have the next gym battle. And this is only the second gym, by the way. But he was really getting on her nerves apparently, and so essentially she is Ami, the Jade City gym leader, and she's looking forward to our gym fight. So after this, I go ahead here and I just straight up enter the gym because I'm ready for that fight. And this gym has a really unique gimmick as well, where you have to step on the color tile of the Pokemon cries when you hear them. So a lot of them will switch. So when you hear like like they said there, if you hear an Azumarill like cry, you have to step on a blue tile, and you can't step on anything else. But after that, I go ahead here and I hop right on over into the first gym trainer fight. And essentially, these gym trainers are not really that hard. They mostly just have a lot of fairy type Pokemon. Obviously, it's fairy type gym. So yeah, I go ahead here and just hop right on into the first gym fight against Imini. And yeah, so this gym was not honestly that difficult. Her team is very interesting, I must say. Obviously, leading with an Azumarill, they're going into a Mawile here. And I was a little bit worried, especially, coming in, just wondering, what's my team going to do. But, hey, she also has this really cool, kind of Guitar Hero gimmick. During the fight, where if you land a lot of the attacks, you actually get bonus stats. If you fail them, then you actually get negatives on your character. I think it's really cool. I do think that whole dancing part of it brings out, a really, really, really cool, unique take on this fairy type gym leader. But yeah, I end up defeating her. She wasn't really that hard, and I do end up getting the music badge, and so she gives me that fairy badge, as well as giving me the TM for Fairy Win, and essentially that, the next gym leader is in Quartz City. After that, we go ahead here, we have a small conversation with Simon, telling him about everything that's going on within the forest, of the bandage, as well as giving me the TM for Fairy Win, and essentially that, the next should be. After that, we go ahead here, we have a small conversation with Simon, telling him about everything that's going on within the forest, of the bamboo forest, and so essentially we tell him about it, and he just tells us, hey, Teresa's, gonna be hard, she's tough, and that, she knows what the reality system can do, and he ends up giving me the ability to be able to finally use Rock Smash, and so essentially, tells me, hey, next place we gotta head off to is Quartz City. Now, I do go up the mountain, heading over to Quartz City, and I do end up meeting up with a trainer coming from another region known as Will, and we end up having a battle with him. Now, anybody who knows Will knows he's a Johto Elite 4 member, which is really cool, and this was just a really cool battle to have. It wasn't really very difficult, honestly. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, really battle, but I must say that, like, hey, it was a really cool battle. I do have to say that, but yeah, I do end up beating him, and that he does end up giving me the essentially kind of information that he promises, and uses his Zatu to look into my future. And when he looks into my future, he ends up seeing a completely different person, which is surprising because his Zatu has never seen the future of a person besides the person he's actually talking to. So that's pretty interesting. Now, I do end up getting into the cave. I fight a couple of trainers inside this cave before Crystal City, and I end up evolving my Rowlet into a Curlia, which is super cool. Love the extra power on the team, and I end up getting a Clink on the team. Now, I switch in a Rock Band here, so I wanted to go for a Mud Slap, and they ended up using Gear Grind and killing me. Now, Clink would have been an alright encounter, but he was just way too strong at the time. Now, I do end up here and I'm heading past, obviously past Route 6, and I do end up meeting up with Elliot and this mysterious girl in a hood with a Celebi, surprisingly, and she ends up telling me a lot about herself, and the fact that, oh, she's actually the champion. And after a lot of, back and forth in between, running around and kind of trying to help Elliot get his camera back from this Archon that we end up finding out, which actually ends up coming from the museum of the exact same town we were just in, he essentially asked, hey, I actually really like this, maybe I should try to own this Archon later on. So, and we end up using the reality system here, and afterwards we end up kind of figuring out everything about how the reality system is linked to Liana and the Metis Corporation. Now, after that, we end up going and meeting up with Miss B. She is the owner of the current museum of the town we are currently in, and essentially she tells Elliot that, hey, yeah, you can keep that Archon who stole your camera, and all you have to do is just negotiate with her, and all you have to do is just be nice to it, be friends with it, do the typical thing that a Pokemon trainer would be. And essentially, yeah, she just I give a Pokeball to Elliot, and he goes ahead here and catches the Archon and adds his first Pokemon to his team, which is kind of cool, but I mean, it's an Archon, so who cares? And obviously, the champion also leaves with her Celebi. Now, after that, I do go up into the next route where you guys can obviously see I get a bunch of really like interesting Pokemon in the grass, a lot of starters, a lot of grass starters specifically. But I do end up making my way finally to Quartz City, where I meet Owen, and he tells me about the ex-champion Liana, who, obviously we got to talk to her to be able to figure out what's going on with this Metis Corporation. So when we walk inside the castle, we end up finding out Alba, and she's talking to Jeremiah, and he essentially tells her that, yo, I didn't create the system for this. But we also end up meeting for the first time is the character of Liana, and she has this sort of sassy, kind of manipulative, very, distinguishable nature. There's a lot going on with her. She's a very interesting and beautiful character, I must have to say. But she essentially, Alba tells her that, yo, I hate what you're doing with this reality data system. I hate how I've had to force myself to, use this. And essentially what Liana does is, I don't care, I'm going to force you to fight in my tournament. And now we're getting introduced to her ourselves, and the fact that, we come from a small town within the region, as well as Jasper Village. So yeah, essentially she notices that I also have a copy of the reality system, and that essentially she kind of admits me into a challenge. So yeah, she admits me into a challenge that, hey, if I fight in her tournament and I win and I beat her daughter Alba, that she will destroy the Metis Corporation, and she will also destroy essentially the reality system, and just, not release it, not use it, and all that type of stuff. So that's pretty cool, I have to say. Yeah, so I'm just like, what, I gotta win this tournament, we gotta fight each other, we're just gonna see what happens, and I'm planning to give it my all, and I do plan on winning and just stopping the Metis Corporation from doing all their evil deeds as well. Now, Elliot obviously is going to cheer me on with his Archon, but after doing a little bit of grinding, a little bit of training, I go ahead here and we go ahead and just start the tournament, because I just want to hop right on into it, and I do want to go ahead here and get through these fights. Now, obviously Liana is going to be the main, obviously, commenter here, because she is the one hosting the tournament, but I am going to have a first fight with Owen here. Now, this fight was not that difficult. Yet again, it's Owen. He's not difficult. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Owen in this game, until later on, at the beginning, he is not very difficult. I'm just going to be real. This Heliolisk, sorry, was really the thing that was just giving me some trouble, but I was able to easily take it out, like I said, and I can keep on moving my Pokemon. So after I beat him, I go ahead here, I fight this little rocker, easy, fight this ace chick, easy, and by this point, I'm actually supposed to, only have 100 points, but hey, Liana tells me, hey, I have 10,000 points, now you can fight Alba, and I end up having a fight with Alba, and yet again, she does have a level 60 Braviary, but, doesn't do anything with it. So I was able to easily kill the rest of her team, and I think at this point I won, right? Everything's over, Metis Corporation is done, genuine bonds with my Pokemon, all that type of stuff. But yeah, Liana's not having any of that. She's like, no, we don't need a bond for Pokemon to be able to listen to the trainers. We're going to use the system, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And if you're going to get in our way, then, it's going to be all Sarah's fault, the champion with the Celebi. It's going to be all her fault, and that, obviously Alba is good for nothing. So, yeah, essentially after that, she tries to fight me herself, which, I was like, okay, let's throw hands, let's see what she got. She has 3 Pokemon. Yeah, she started with a little 51 Steelix. I was already sweating balls. After that, she Mega Evolved that Steelix, and I knew this fight was over instantly. But luckily enough, Jeremiah ends up hopping in Steelix does use Hyper Beam, and luckily Jeremiah is able to help us get out of the way. He uses his Roserade to use Grass Whistle on Liana and, you know, makes her fall asleep. Super helpful. But essentially after, you know, Liana goes to sleep and, you know, they kind of try to take care of her, we end up meeting up with Jeremiah, which Owen starts trying to question instantly because he's evil. Same thing with Liana. And essentially, like, Jeremiah tells me that even if, you know, I wanted to do all this with Teresa and everything else, everything was evil, you know, we're not going to do anything. And it's like chasing us around is not going to kill the system. What you really should be looking for is more of a power source or something that really you should actually be able to, you know, get rid of the system as a whole instead of just chasing around a bunch of random grunts and, you know, kind of doing nothing. But I end up meeting up with Elliot, kind of telling him about what's going on, and he does invite me to go get my 3rd badge in the next city. So I go ahead, or well, in this city, really. But right here, I start with the Quartz Gym. Now, this gym obviously also has a little bit of an extra puzzle to it, you know, a little bit extra mechanics to it, and yeah, it is a water gym, so that's going to be very interesting. It's mostly just flipping switches, battling a couple trainers, nothing really too serious. Honestly, it was the easiest gimmick out of, I think, every single gym so far, but I do end up here having a fight with the gym leader, Ken. Hopping around into it, he has 3 Pokemon as well, and I use Razor Leaf on the Pyukumuku, who uses counter and one-shots my Dartrix. That was something I was not expecting, I'm just going to be real, and at this point, I'm kind of losing my mind slowly, because I'm just super confused on what is going on, or how am I going to get through this battle, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've barely fought against a Pyukumuku who uses Pyukumuku, and I definitely do not know this thing knows counter, and so I'm panicking out of my mind. I really don't know what to do here. The only thing I really can do here is just Roost, and then I can kind of Confuse Ray, hopefully get the Confuse hacks on him, and essentially just had to pray to God that he does not counter, because essentially all my Pokemon, except for Blades, are physical, but I do end up kind of switching into Blades here. I do decide to go for the Confusion here, just because it's a special move he can't counter, and now he also uses Block, so I can't heal anymore. But I just keep using Confusion. Essentially, it's a special move. He can't do anything about it because the only move I believe he knows is counter. And I was able to take him out. Now he switches into Brionne. And at this point, I am kind of wondering, you know, what am I going to do about this Brionne? I decided to switch in my Ariados, which I did evolve my Spinarak into an Ariados. And I go ahead here and I just Leech Life here. Just Leech Life. Slowly killing it, slowly gaining back my life. I decided to Super Potion here because Ariados can easily take this out. But then no, I decided to switch into Gaxley. After I switch into Gaxley, we go ahead here, and I do end up landing the Confuse Ray. Go for the Aqua Jet, does no damage, does land a Brine, but that doesn't do much either. I decided to Roost here, does get hit with the Confusion yet again. I Aqua Jet, and we get the kill, which is really good. Also giving me a few levels there. Try to send in a Poliwhirl. I decide here that I'm just going to keep out Gaxley. I'm going to hope to God that nothing goes wrong. We go for the Confuse Ray. And then I just go for the Aqua Jet, but he does have, apparently, I believe he has Aqua Ring up, or he has some ability that essentially absorbs water type attacks, which is pretty crazy, honestly. And so I decided to switch into Cannon Event here. He does go for a Bulldoze. Luckily, I get really lucky there with the Flying type. We do end up landing the Pounds. I do get through the Confusion on the Water Pulse, and I do land a Pluck to end up getting the kill and getting my next badge. Now that's how we end up talking to Simon yet again. Now obviously after every single gym battle you do, you kind of unlock a new HM you can have, and you kind of just talk to him for a little bit. And I end up getting Clear, which essentially gets rid of fog and foggy areas. And I do end up adding Chikorita to the team after this as well. And I do end up evolving him into a Bayleaf, which is really cool. So after that I decided to go ahead here, and then I'm done with Quartz City, and then I can essentially leave. After exploring, you know, little side routes and everything. And so I head over to the next town, which is going to be Lapis Town. Now, in this route, I do end up getting a Skittias encounter, which isn't very helpful, but hey, why not? I do end up meeting up with Owen as well, who also tells me that apparently on the edge in an underwater cave at night, the water actually recedes, and that there apparently have been shady guys from the Metis Corporation going in there. So I do have to wait till the nighttime to be able to go in there, but I do decide here to go ahead and just use my Dawnstone on my Curly here to get a Gallade, because an early Gallade is going to give me a lot, and I mean a lot of coverage and benefit to a lot of the stuff that hopefully is coming up. It's going to give my team a lot of a power boost, because right now my team was just, it was not as strong as it possibly could be. But yeah, I did add Gallade to the team, so hopefully that's going to be a real big push to making my team a lot better. And I do wait toward night till night to be able to enter this cave after the water recedes with meeting up with Owen. So we do kind of get lucky with this. Fact that we can go ahead here and enter this grotto. So I enter the grotto. I end up fighting through a bunch of Team Metis corporations, and these guys have some serious Pokemon after all. Like I said, I had a Lopunny there, and I had some other stuff there. I do end up actually getting a Dwebble as an encounter in here, and we do end up meeting up with some recruits in here as well that are trying to steal the pearls from a bunch of clan pearls, but they're kind of yanking them out forcefully, kind of torturing them, things like that. So we got to put a stop to them. So we challenge them to a battle here, and yet again, luckily, this Helioptile, or this Heliolisk really, is on my team. He's a huge help in these fights. I mean, that Espeon is just going crazy on his health, and luckily enough, none of them attacked me there. But yeah, no, with his help, I was able to easily kind of get through this fight. It was a pretty alright double battle, I must say. Luckily enough, he took most of the damage, and they didn't decide to attack me and gang up on me, because that could have been a very big issue. But no, Teresa does end up finding out what the recruits are doing with the clan pros, and she essentially tells them, hey, I didn't, order you to do this, you're just being cruel, and essentially they run off and leave. But afterwards, Teresa invites me to the lighthouse because she wants to have a few words with me. So Owen tells me, hey, go meet up with Teresa, go beat her, and go figure out what team the Metis Corporation is really doing. So I go all the way to the top of the lighthouse and I meet up with Teresa, and she essentially tells me the plan of what they're going to do with the Realidea system. That essentially, Simon is the one who, should know by this plan, know everything that's going on. But they're going to give the Realidea system to everybody in the population and essentially try to use it to kind of create world peace, sort of. Very interesting, especially compared to what Liana was saying about what she wanted to do with the Realidea system. But we do end up fighting Teresa here, and obviously with my Gaxley, I was easily able to take out her breaks in. Little to no issues there, especially with the priority water, or Aqua Jet, sorry. Go ahead here, switch into Toucannon to fight the Duosion. I go ahead here and I do try to go for a Pluck, does a decent amount of damage, and I die to a Psyshock. Now, this ended up being Toucannon's canon event because he just died. And at this point, I had a Night Slash with Blades and finish it off. And last Pokemon is going to be Lumineon, so I go ahead here, switch out into Meganium, which, she obviously isn't happy about how the way this battle's going. I decided to Poison Powder and then just go into a straight Energy Ball, slowly weaken it down and just kill it there. I didn't really have to lose Toucannon there, but it happened, so I can't really get rid of it. But hey, my Ariados does learn Sucker Punch, so that hopefully will help recover that loss. But yeah, so I had to talk with her just for a little bit, telling her essentially about the advantages of the system and how we can use it for good, and essentially that, they're going to be in Agate City as well. So hey, I gotta head over there. We gotta stop them. We gotta put an end to all of this Realidea system nonsense. But I do decide here to go ahead and use a Moonstone that I had found on the Skinny to evolve it into a Delcatty. So yeah, after that, I go ahead here and head over to the next route, which I can get another encounter in, which is going to be really cool. Also do go ahead here and just pick up a Protein, and my next encounter is an Oricorio. Now this is the Fire Dance style, which, Oricorio never been a mod I've really used before, but is definitely something I think could be interesting and, decent for the team, so I might as well pick it up. It is an encounter, so there's no reason for me not to go ahead here and just catch it. So I do go ahead here, and I do end up, after a little bit of a struggle, I do catch this Oricorio, and I name it, I believe I've named it Oni, or Ori, I believe, and, it ends up becoming kind of a valid member of my team later on, and it does help. I had to say, it was a lot more of a decent mod than I expected it to be, because I definitely was not expecting much from an Oricorio, definitely not from this mod. Definitely could have also got some better encounters in this route. I will definitely say there was definitely better options, but hey, take what you get, and kind of just enjoy it. I could definitely say that. But yeah, definitely was a little bit of a struggle to catch. Just refused to get in these balls. It was one of the biggest issues. I was really scared of losing Gaxley here as well, but like I said, I did catch it, so yeah. After that, we end up moving further into the route. We find this small town right before a cave, which is going to be the Frozen Grotto, where we meet this interesting blonde-haired fellow here, and he's going to be an Elite Four member, Aster, and he's going to be an Ice-type trainer with his main Pokemon being Alolan Ninetales, where essentially he says, hey, you know, me and Elliot should go together because Archon's going to be weak to ice type Pokemon, which this next cave is going to have a lot of ice types in it. So hey, we decided to go together instead just to be safe. So yeah, we go ahead here and just hop right on into the cave, where obviously I'm going to also be getting another encounter as well to add to the team, hopefully. And that is going to be a Vanillite. So yeah, Vanillite not the greatest, but hey, I ended up challenging this random trainer. She ends up having an Arcanine, so I switch into Gax, so he goes for the Fire Fang. Not really effective. I go ahead here and just Aqua Jet a couple more times, you know, clear it out, nothing too bad. Now she switches into the Magneton, and here is where I think I make a mistake. I switch in Kulawudo to try to get him some EXP, go for the low kick. He goes for the Mirror Shot and one-shots my Kulawudo. So yeah, no Sudowoodo for me, unfortunately, but I mean, what else could I do? There really wasn't much else. I really wanted him to get experience. I thought the low kick would kill, and it just straight up didn't. So that was definitely on me. But yeah, that was definitely a loss that could have been avoided, but I, you know, didn't think too much. And you'll see a little bit later on that it happens a little bit more than I would like it to. But yeah, Elliot does end up getting in trouble, and his Archon pushes him out of the way, sacrificing itself essentially on an icicle. And Elliot runs out of the cave, and luckily enough, he was able to meet up with this guy right here, who luckily was able to, you know, give him some medical aid so that he can, you know, help his Archon, and his Archon will be fine moving forward from that icicle crash from the ceiling. Now I go ahead and continue on down the route to the next city, and when I get into the next city, I decide, instead of just, you know, instantly, you know, going to the gym trying to fight that, I want to figure out what I'm going to make my team. So I go ahead, I rearrange my team together, kind of figure out, you know, who I'm going to be putting in the death box, who I want to be adding to the team at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and here add the Dwebble to my team. Now, after I do that, I go ahead here and I meet up with the gym guy. We meet up with Owen and we have a battle. So after I had this battle with Owen, I had to say this was where stuff started getting a little bit harder within the game, because he starts off with a Glaceon, which was not something I expected. I did not expect his Eevee to evolve into a Glaceon. But yeah, he starts doing massive damage to me. My Gallade does not have a fighting type move at this time, and essentially I'm relying on double team as well as a combination of slash. And one of the biggest issues with this fight that I had was the hail. Hail does so much damage to you in this game. It racks up very quickly, especially even on opponents' moves that don't do that much damage to you. Hail will actually lower your Pokemon's team. It will just lower it and 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 do a crap ton of damage to you. So this was like something I was like panicking about, because I was really scared because I wasn't doing much damage. This hail was chipping me down, and his Glaceon was still doing pretty much a decent amount of damage to me. And at this point, Dwebble is just kind of not up to par, but I have to use Dwebble. He's my only chance. I need to land the smackdown. It needs to be a lot of damage. Can't get it off. I decide to heal. He goes for the Ice Fang again, lowering me with that. There's nothing else I could really do. Yet again, I'm just getting walled here, yet again, just chipping and chipping and chipping, and it's really, really aggressive, but I am able to set up the Stealth Rocks. Luckily me, I switch back into, I believe I switch into Gaxley here, because it's literally the only other option I have. You know, luckily enough, I go here for the Confusion, cannot land it. I land it the second time, luckily enough, have to go for the heal here. And like I said, you guys can just see my Pokemon slowly dying. Really not much I can do about it. I just have to land these Confusions, land these Confuse Ray, you know, pray to God, keep the healing going up, and just keep my Mons going and just being alive. I decided to roost here instead of using a potion because I really don't have that many. And he's just slowly whittling me down. And this is just his first Pokemon, by the way. He's completely walling me here. He's just walling me. It's just over. It's just hit me with an attack, even if it doesn't do that much damage. Hail does damage. It's just a lie. And it's just a very, very slow process of me using Roost, healing back up, hitting him with Drill Pick, then hitting him with Aqua Jet, hitting him with Confuse Ray, hoping for Confusion hacks, and just a whole bunch of just thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. It is just a lot, but luckily enough, after a huge battle, I am able to kill the Glaceon, and that was, like I said, only his first Pokemon. So after I know, like, yo, this is only his first Pokemon, it's only Roost, I don't know what I'm gonna get rid of here or what I don't want, so I decided not to learn Roost. He's gonna send out Heliolisk. Now Heliolisk can only be countered by one Pokemon on my team. Every other Pokemon on the team is essentially weak to Heliolisk, or is weak in general. So at this point, I just have to use spam, land the Energy Ball. Energy Ball luckily does some decent damage. He goes here for the Parabolic Charge, it heals him a little bit, but doesn't do that much damage to me. I go for the Poison, I go here for the synthesis to give myself back some health. It gives me like almost nothing because of the hail. So I go ahead here and I just use a super potion, heal him back up to full. I am paralyzed, but we are slowly chipping him down with the hail as well as with the poison damage, and I am able to kill him off with an energy ball. Luckily enough for me, I do decide to switch out here into Gaxley for the Mantine. We're going to go ahead here. We're going to just straight up, I decided, this is not going to work out the way how I expected it to, but there really isn't too much else I can do. So I just got a super potion up. We heal. He goes for the headbutt. He's still getting chipped by the rain, by the hail as well. Go for the confused hacks. Just got to pray for confusion here. Go for the drill peck. Does a decent amount of damage. He does land a water pulse on me, but I do kill him with the drill peck. Yet again, he sends out the fire starter. Yet again, I roost because obviously, is the fire starter. He's going to die to like 1 or 2 aqua jets. So yeah, he does Calm Mind here, does get that boosted attack, does not do enough damage to take me out. I do aqua jet and we do end up winning the battle. That was a very hard battle. This is where Owen starts actually coming through, starts being a problem, and kind of just starts getting, into it. But after a while, we do end up going to the bottom route, and we do end up saving Alba from a wild Dugong, which I do, try to catch thinking it's a stack encounter. It is not. But we do end up actually, meeting up with Alba, and she tells us actually what happened with Liana right after we had our little tournament fight with her. And so essentially, she asked, why did you help create the system? Why are you trying to do is spread it throughout Asteria? And you can't be cruel. But essentially, Liana says that bonds between human and Pokemon are nothing but that just they don't do anything. The only thing we use Pokemon for is power, and essentially that when she realizes that, she will stop being weaker than everyone around her. And Alba gets mad at her, and she's going to tell her, I'm going to do whatever I want. And so essentially, Liana gets a visit from a member of the Metis Corporation, and essentially Alba just leaves, but she does decide to stay and kind of listen to the other person who she was talking to. And Sarah shows up yet again. This is the champion. This is the girl who also is friends with Celebi. And apparently, her and Liana knew each other back when they were kids. And that, essentially, Sarah beat Liana in a battle to claim the title of champion from Liana. And essentially that, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. The reality system, you're using it in a selfish way. It's like, essentially Liana tells her, hey, you're, accepted by Celebi and all this stuff. Of course you're going to come and try to ruin my plans and my life and everything else. And essentially, Sarah brings up the fact that when she was a kid, she didn't have all this anger and everything else. But if she wanted to walk this path, that she is going to have to fight Sarah, and they are going to have to end up being enemies. But yeah, Liana essentially just tells her, hey, I'm going to use the reality data system for whatever. And Sarah decides to leave, but essentially calls her a fool. So after that, Alba essentially just tells us, hey, that's what happened. I want to train. I want to get stronger. And Owen's like, yeah, I want to do the same thing. I want to keep getting these gym badges, and I want to beat Liana and the Metis Corporation. And so, obviously, they decide to, hey, we're going to investigate more about Liana and that, and he's going to help Alba train. But I'm going to go ahead and see what's up with the gym leader, and I'm going to go ahead here and try to get my next gym badge so that we can, move on and hopefully stop the Metis Corporation in the next city coming up. Now, in the same exact route, I do end up fighting a Hex user, and these Hex users are spread throughout the region. They do come up a lot, and they are kind of hard, they are difficult, but most of the time I'm able to defeat them with little to no issue. This trainer was specifically different because of, yet again, the hail. Hail in this game hurts like a bitch. That 5 hit points, those 5 hit points really, really matter from the hail. Because just after a while, there's not much I can do. It's literally just stacking hail with the confusion, with the ghost moves, and it's a lot. Like, I can't run, I can't do anything here. And the ominous wind is just doing damage on damage, and with the hail, yet again, it's racking up. So I said to keep heal stalling here. I go for the aqua jets. I try to play it as safe as I possibly can. I'm cutting it extremely, extremely close on my starter here. Yet again, I think, it's time. We got to switch into something. I got to make something work. I got to do something. So I just keep heal stalling and praying, and there's just not much I can do. I just got a hyper potion again. Wake Up Slap is doing crazy amounts of damage. I have to go for the aqua jet here. I don't get the kill. Yet again, I go for the aqua jet. And luckily enough, I'm not low enough for hail to kill me, and I do end up winning the battle. But man, that was a tough fight where I almost lost everything. I had to say, I almost lost everything to that Hex user. Was definitely a trainer to be scared of. That is definitely hard, and it's one of like just the strongest trainers probably I've fought in the game so far. But after that, I ended up meeting up in this gym. Now this gym has just ice puzzles in it, so you go through some ice puzzles and you kind of spread around some gifts and stuff, and you end up meeting the ice gym leader, Douglas. Now obviously he hates, you know, everything about the holidays. He's kind of a Debbie Downer, and so, you know, we had to go ahead here and have a battle with him to be able to proclaim our next gym badge. So I do go ahead here and I do fight Douglas, and, you know, he ends up having, I believe, 5 Pokemon, and luckily enough, I do have Leaf Blade on my Gallade, so, hey, I am doing super effective damage on Piloswine, easily was able to take him out, little to no issue. I decided here that I'm going to go ahead and I just switched right, I believe, into I believe I switched into Galaxy here, I'm pretty sure. But no, I actually stay in. I decided to go for the Night Slash instead, just keeping him alive. He does have Drain Kiss, but hey, that Night Slash is going to be super effective. It's going to do crazy amounts of damage. And at this point, you know, Weavile, what is Weavile going to really be able to do to me? I almost one-shot the Weavile there, but, you know, he is kind of keeping it there. But luckily I was faster, was able to get the low sweep off there, and so I was able to kill his Weavile, switch into Galaxy for the final Cloyster, which does end up using Icicle Crash and a lot of damage there, but I do get the Confuse Hacks on him, and I switch back into Gallade here. Obviously he's also setting up Toxic Spikes and everything like that, but I am able to defeat him with just a few Leaf Blades, so that was really no issue at all. So yeah, Owen does tell me, hey, yeah, no, I was able to fight Douglas and I did end up winning. So yeah, so Owen's about to go ahead and fight the gym leader when we do get a call from Simon, when that, you know, he kind of says, yo, unfortunately I couldn't really get in contact with you before, but, you know, he's in contact with us now. So after he gets in contact with us, he ends up finding out that the Menace Corporation actually plans to use the system like Teresa said, or is they planning to use it like Liana said. It's kind of like, you know, whatever. But we end up having to go to their headquarters in Agate City to actually, you know, find out really what's going on. As well, and finally that the trains, which there is a train system in this game, it's a metro system, are finally back online, so I can finally use those to be able to fast travel to previous towns that I've actually been to, so that was pretty good. But yeah, so essentially I still have to go to the next town to be able to meet up with them, and Simon says, yo, I'm gonna keep doing that, but he also does give me access to Surf. Surf is really cool in this game. You guys will see it when I use it in a little bit. But yeah, Owen ends up, you know, saying like, hey, I'm not gonna go in training. And yeah, but there is a secret fight here that you could do in one of the Fiverr like kind of side quests as well. I wanted to show you guys this as well. It was a pretty important battle, and it is a battle against the Gen 2 rival, Silver. Now, if you guys don't know who Silver is, he is the Gen 2 rivals of the Heart Gold, Soul Silver, as well as just normal Gold, normal Silver, Crystal. So yeah, the Gen 2 games as a whole, he was the main protagonist, or well, antagonist kind of. Well, not really. He was kind of just main rival. But yeah, you do end up having a fight with him in this game. Like I said, a lot of Johto trainers end up showing up in this game, surprisingly, which is pretty cool, I gotta say. And he does have a pretty hard team. This Crobat was actually giving me a little bit of help, and yet again, Hail is one of the biggest things that screws people over in this. I'm telling you, this part of the game is extremely hard, mostly due to that Hail. That Hail does a lot of damage. Like, a lot of damage, but we end up having, you know, kind of a face-off between Feraligatr and Chikorita, and obviously Chikorita is super effective, so obviously I'm going to win there. Go ahead and heal up here, get the low sweep, and I do win. But I do also evolve my Bayleaf into a Meganium, and I do end up teaching him Petal Dance. So after that, I end up giving Silver a Scarf, which his mother ends up giving me from a favor you guys can figure out earlier on in the game, which then ends up giving me access to kind of this area where I end up having a battle against Archer. Now, if you guys know who Archer is, yet again, he is a Team Rocket member who's essentially an admin for Team Rocket in the Gen 2 games. So yeah, we end up having a battle against him here, and this was a bad battle, mostly because of this. The Weezing used Self-Destruct and did one-shot my Gallade. I just put a lot of effort into training this Gallade. Gallade was one of my best Pokemon. He was up there with like the rest of my team, and I lost him because Self-Destruct, which I knew was coming. And the thing is, I'm now fighting Electrode, which also can learn Self-Destruct and Explosion, and at this point I had to switch into Meganium, use Reflect, and I'm just praying that's enough to be able to live the Explosion, because that's really all I could do. So I decided to Petal Dance here. It does a decent amount of damage. He goes for the Charge Move again. I'm expecting a Self-Destruct at this point, but no, he dies to Poison. We get really lucky there. And he does send out a Houndoom for his last Pokemon, so I am just going to switch in my Water Starter, easily able to take it out with 2 Aqua Jets. After that, he does try to switch into yet again another mon, which is Mach. I decided to go for the Confuse right here to stay in with Gaxley, keep it held down with the Drill Pex. He does an alright amount of damage to me, but I'm just going to Roost. Hopefully, you know, hit him with the Aqua Jet. It's not doing too much. I'm poisoned now at this point. He's weakening me down. I'm really wondering, you know, what am I going to be able to do? How am I going to be able to beat this thing? I switch into Rax, my Ariados, and I go for the Sucker Punch. And luckily enough, I was just able to outlive that Muck. And yeah, we are able to now learn Liquidation on my Water Starter Gaxley, and you know, that helps him tremendously. And he does evolve into his final evolution, which is Sieg Howl, which is a pirate bird thing. It was exactly what I wanted Claxley to evolve into. It was really, really great, and I just had to say, like, yo, this was a really fun battle, and you know, I really loved everything that I got out of it. But after I finally got to Agate City, we now had to go look for Simon in an auditorium. So, you know, in case we could look for the Menace Corporation. Now, I do end up meeting up with Owen here, essentially, so we both just head into the auditorium, and we're just gonna go find Simon, find out what's going on. So after we get in, we end up finding Teresa, and she's actually playing the piano, and I have to say, this was a really cool moment. I really did like this moment a lot throughout the game, and she was actually really good at the piano, which is kind of surprising, but hey. We end up taking a look down kind of the corridor to the right, and we end up seeing a Menace Corporation member just kind of walking around, and so we're like, hey bro, we gotta go investigate, we gotta go see what's up with him. And yeah, so we end up tracking him into this room, and essentially, you know, now that we got him pinned down, we all just charge into the room, and then we find out that there's no one in here. And so we kind of just figure out, yo, what's going on? Maybe he's hiding in a box or something. And so we look through some boxes and we find a hidden passageway that leads to a Menace Corporation base, which is kind of interesting. So Owen decides, hey, now it's time for, you know, me and Rev to go ahead and we just charge this base and we get as much information as we can. And Simon gives me a drive where essentially I can plug it into the computer and get all the information that I possibly need on the system and everything that, you know, is available for there. Now, obviously, Jeremiah is talking to Liana about everything that happened at the tournament, and she essentially tells you that, hey, the only reason I haven't, you know, come and kind of killed you or kind of done that is because I need you to work on the system. And he tries to tell her that, hey, the system does not make Pokemon more powerful. It's literally just news to have a connection between you and Pokemon. And she's like, no, now I want you to make it to where it can make Pokemon stronger, and essentially that, you know, we can use it. So after fighting through a few grunts, and I end up getting my way all the way like high through their base, I do end up meeting up with Jeremiah, which he essentially tells me the whole entire reason that their reality system has been having a lot of issues and, you know, function disorders is because I have a copy of the reality system that kind of messes it up. So yeah, he does live with a Gardevoir, and his Gardevoir does one-shot my Ariados. Now this is one of the hardest fights in the game. Now luckily enough, Gaxley does evolve into a Water-Dark type, so anybody with a brain would have thought, yeah, let's evolve in that. But at the same time, Gardevoir in this game is a Fairy type, so he will also have the chance to, you know, freaking one-shot me. So I'm panicking. I literally just go for the obvious poison. I switch in my Meganium, go for the poisons here, I go for the Synthesis, and I'm just hoping for chip damage to slowly wear it down while I just essentially heal stall. It's really all I can do here to be able to live, because that Dazzling Gleam, you can see how hard it hits, obviously Meganium. You really think my Water Dark starter is not going to get one shot by that? Yes, he is. He will get absolutely obliterated. But yeah, I do decide to go for Petal Dance here. Luckily enough, I break out of that. It does do a decent amount of damage though. And at this point, I'm kind of worried because I'm like, I don't know if Poison's still going to be enough. I definitely don't have enough potions to be able to live, so I switch into the Vanillite. Lives one Magical Leaf. Honestly, at this point, my Vanillite's not going to do too much, so I do decide here to go ahead and just kind of see like what options I have. I do go for the Oranberry. We had to kill off Chrono. My Vanillite, he didn't last long, but I do have to switch back and spam, go for the Petal Dance to get the kill. Very lucky there. Now he does switch into Heracross. At this point I am locked into Petal Dance. I'm expecting to get one shot by a Mega Horn. Luckily he didn't use Mega Horn, so I was able to switch out, but Pin Missile is still super effective on my Water Starter because obviously he's a Dark type, but it doesn't do enough damage, and I am able to one shot him with a Drill Peck. Now he is switching into a Roserade, so I was switching to Orino, and I decided to go here for the Teeter Dance straight up to get the Confusion, and then after that I decided to heal, and then I believe I go for the Air Cutter here just to try to finish it off. Obviously it's a Flying type, so obviously Grass types are weak to it. So yeah, we just keep going for that, and we do end up finishing off the Roserade. He does have a Piloswine, which at this point I decided to switch into Gaxley because there's not really much he could do. I decided to Roost here since it's essentially a free turn. He amnesias. I just go ahead, I go for the liquidation, we get the one shot, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, we defeat Jeremiah, just like that. So he ends up saying that, yeah, our system interferes with his, and essentially that, you could see all of what the data you want, you could put it in the computer, you can get all the data you want, this is what we're going to be using the Realidea system for, and it's for essentially what he thought was what Teresa was saying. So, now that we have all the information on their Realidea system, what they have, essentially we let the professor look through it, and yeah, after that he just say, hey, it's going to take me some time, let's leave. And so after that, I have a little talk with Sharon first. He wants to go ahead here and just challenge the gym of this town. I'm like, cool. Go ahead here. I level up my Crustle a little bit with some of the leveling systems that Realidea system has. And I do go ahead here and I turn him into a Crustle, which is going to help massively for that power. And I do end up meeting up with the next gym leader, who we get introduced to later, which apparently one of her Pokemon ends up going missing after she hangs out with kind of one of her goons, or I guess you could say really her gym trainers, and it is a Poochyena. So I do have to end up going in the sewers and saving the Poochyena, and it's a long process of just fighting a couple trainers, going through some water puzzles, getting a few items. Nothing really too advanced there, honestly. I had to do it a couple of times as well, as you guys can see. We also do end up finding out that the sewers is connected to the Metis Corporation base, so that's kind of cool. But I do at the end up finding out that the Poochyena was actually kidnapped by a Bayonet, which is a static encounter. So I am going to go ahead here and just catch this because it is a static Bayonet. So boom, I catch the Bayonet and, I have a little chat with the Poochyena and it goes back. And I do end up finding Bayonetite right next to it. So hey, now I have access to a Mega Bayonet when I do get the access to Mega Evolution. So after that, I go through the gym puzzle, no problem, and I end up meeting up with Sierra, which is one of my favorite design gym leaders. I think she looks amazing. She is literally great, but she's a dark type gym leader, and essentially I had to beat her to be able to get her badge. So now that I'm fighting her, she starts up with a Malamar. I start off with my starter, obviously. He's going to go for the U-turn, which is super effective. I go for the liquidation, does alright damage, not great damage, but is okay. She is currently switching into a Bisharp, which is, something. And all her Pokemon are nicknames, so if you guys see these names, it's not like, a translation or anything. They just have nicknames. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I do switch into Orino here. I do go for the Air Cutter again. Lands one more attack on me. It's not doing too much, but it is hurting me a little bit. They do go for the Hyper Potion here. I decided to do the Teeter Dance to get the confusion off. He is still doing a bit of damage, low-key. I decided to also go for the Feather Dance here. I get poisoned, and just like that, my Orino goes down to the poison, unfortunately. I did lose her there. Now, at this point, I really don't know who I want to switch into. I decided to switch into Meganium. I go for the Reflect, because obviously, I'm expecting mostly physical moves. Go for the Petal Dance, it's not doing too much damage. He decides to go for the Health Potion. I get really lucky here, and luckily enough, because that potion saved me and did not kill my Meganium, but he does one-shot my Toad, which is my Poliwag that I caught really early on. And at this point, I have to sack the Delcatty as well, just to be able to heal up the rest of my team and to make sure that they're good so that we can actually make it through this battle. But yeah, Delcatty wasn't really going to help me anyway, so I'm not that mad about that loss whatsoever, I do have to say that. And so here, I decide to switch into Gaxley. I go for the Drill Peck. It does not kill, but he does die to that little chip damage there. So he sends back out the Malamar. I decide to go here for the Confused Ray. He does hit me with the U-turn again into the Mightyena. Yet again, I just Hyper Potion. There's not much Mightyena can really do against me. Go for the Liquidation. Does a decent bit of damage. Hits itself with Confusion as well, and I do end up kind of finishing it off with that Liquidation. It does kill itself to Confusion as well, which is pretty cool. So after that, I go ahead here, switch into Crustle and the Malamar, go for the Bug Bite. It gets the one shot because it's quad effective, and I do end up learning a brand new move on my starter, which is going to be one of its signature moves. Anchor Shot, it's new, kind of cool, but yeah, we do end up actually, sending out another Malamar. I just keep in Crustle, get the Bug Bite, not really much going on there. I just kill it, Crustle is just too good. But we end up defeating the Dark-type gym leader, Saria. And yeah, so after we defeat her, essentially, I end up getting my Dark Badge, which is really cool. And so that's another badge, that I can add to my, essentially my reservoir. So after that, I end up going down to the route right underneath the city, and I do end up getting a Hippopotas as a encounter. So that was a pretty alright encounter, I have to say. Really good tank, really decent mon overall, I would say. Pretty solid ground type. Not hard to catch whatsoever. But after that, we get to Amberino Village, and after we get to Amberino Village, I decided to evolve my Hippopotas after adding it to the team into a Hippowdon, which is really cool. So, yet again, now I have a Hippowdon on my squad as well. So, after we get this, I head over to the next route and I get a Maractus as an encounter. Obviously, I'm also going to be picking that up. An extra grass type was always helpful. Now, Maractus is not the best Pokemon by far. There is a lot better Pokemon you can catch here, but hey, might as well add it to my kind of reservoir. Now, after that, I meet up with Alba, and she's with a unique trainer. And we end up finding out, hey, this trainer is actually the gym leader of the town we were just in. She's a ground type user, and she looks amazing, by the way. And she's helping Alba train for her Braviary because her Braviary does not want to listen to her without using the Realidea system. And Alba really wants Braviary to actually be a part of her team and actually help her out. But Braviary just does not like fighting. It will not fight with her, and it just does not trust her. So we end up having a fight with her in front of Braviary to try to encourage it to, fight better. Now, she does end up leading with the Gourgeist. I love Crustle. I thought it was a great lead, but it just was not doing enough. I tried switching into Bayonet. It did not work. And so eventually I had to just kind of wall this thing with Meganium for a little bit. Now, unfortunately, I can't use Poison Powder on this because it is a grass type, so it really did nothing, unfortunately. And Petal Dance did a decent bit of damage, so I just stayed with the Petal Dance because I was like, hey, that's, it's doing a decent bit of damage, surprisingly. But hey, yet again, this Sandstorm was also kind of messing me up. She was keeping up with Shadow Sneak as well, but luckily I was able to kill it with the Petal Dance. I do hit the Electric here. I get yet again really lucky with that Petal Dance just ending that turn and Electric not doing that much damage. Which was super, super lucky, and it's kind of just like a slow kill burn off thing. Now, she does switch into the Grass Starter. I really did think this was the Duosian. I don't know why I switched into this per se. I switched back into my own Grass Starter yet again, just to wall and just wait for the chip damage from the Sandstorm, because obviously that's going to be doing a lot. And her final Pokemon is going to be Matang. And in all honesty, I decided to just stay in. He really couldn't do too much to me. Petal Dance was doing an alright amount of damage. I could heal here and keep going on, and essentially the only move he had was Zen Headbutt. So I decided to switch over here into my Hippowdon, and I just one-shot him with Crunch. So yeah, even after losing that battle, essentially Dara, kind of thanks me for training with Alba and says, hey, I can go fight her gym. So after doing her little gym puzzle and fighting all her gym trainers, I do end up fighting her as well. And yet again, this is a ground type gym, so not going to be really the hardest thing in the world, especially with the team I have. Now, she was doing a lot of damage with that Hippowdon. I got really, 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 really lucky right there. She did not kill me because she could have easily killed my water starter right there. But hey, she switches into Flygon. Yet again, I'm using a combination of Roost and Liquidation. I'm just kind of keeping up with this. Flygon is still being, kind of chipped down and hurt a little bit. So after that, I end up learning another signature move of this Pokemon, Embroidered Wing, which does more after using Anchor Shot. I do end up getting rid of the Confusion finally, as well. And I just kind of like let the other Pokemon party chill for a little bit. So I do one-shot her Claydol with Liquidation, and then I one-shot her camera up with Liquidation. I decided not to learn Light Screen, and bada bing, bada boom, just like that, I got my next gym badge. Really was not that hard, I'm going to be honest with you. But after we leave that, we end up meeting up with Simon, where essentially he tells us that, hey, he met up with Professor Haya, and we have to go all the way back to the starter town and meet up with him. So after we go back, both of them are now panicking because yet again, Shadow is on the loose. He is all for vengeance. I have to fight and beat him again, which I do. It's really easy. And essentially Simon tells us that, hey, he already knew Professor Haya because they were friends in college, which is pretty cool. So yeah, after that, essentially, they kind of show that, hey, we've already met Simon, we already know who he is, we already have, the Realidea system, everything from him. And so we kind of just concur to him about, hey, here's everything that's going on with the Metis Corporation and how they want to link Pokemon and everything else. So it's either Jiraiya lied to us about how they wanted to, or Liana is kind of hiding things within the background. We don't really know too much at this point. But he did end up finding records of a Pokemon that could potentially give them the energy that they need for the Realidea system, and that is going to be none other than Manaphy. So essentially, we cut Professor Haya to find out the location of where Manaphy is, but she essentially says she doesn't know. Obviously, it's a mythical Pokemon, so it could be anywhere. And so we kind of see that, hey, this is a little bit of a waste of time, but, why not? So I end up going exploring a little bit, and I do end up meeting this trainer on one of the subway systems, I end up trading her my Psyduck, and she gives me a Shroomish, which I instantly evolve into a Breloom because, A, I want to replace that fighting type I lost with Gallade. And I end up fighting this trainer right here, which ends up one-shotting my starter with a Infernape. Now, there's a bunch of trainers on these subways that just fight you with starter Pokemon. I believe if you beat all of them, you get the choice of one of them. I tried doing it here, and I lost my starter Pokemon in this Infernape close combat. I really thought I would... I don't know why I thought I would outspeed. It's an Infernape. It is close combat, which is super effective on me. And it one-shot me, so I was really depressed at this point, but I did still have Meganium, so I did not lose hope for the run just yet, because, you know, when you lose one starter, I still have one in the back, so... you know, even though it was really a bad idea for me to lose my starter here, I am able to luckily prevail by fighting the other 4 Gen 4 starters and luckily make it out of that. Now, in this next fight, she ends up, this guy has a Kangaskhan. Go ahead here and I Poison Powder him up. I pop up a Reflect. He hits me with a Dizzy Punch, which kind of confuses me. Yet again, Sand is doing a lot. I try going for a Synthesis here. It doesn't really heal me too much because of the Sand. And so at this point, I decided to switch into Breloom here. Go for an easy Mach Punch here to get the final kill. So I'm not really thinking too much of it. Then here, I decide to switch back into my Grass Starter on the Golem. Go for the Synthesis. He uses Rock Blast. Hits me 5 times. And at this point, I decided to go for a Petal Dance. Think it's going to one-shot. Obviously, it does not one-shot because it's sturdy. And my Meganium goes down to Sand. That was a fault. That was a death. That was all on me, personally. I completely misplayed that, and I probably should have stopped using Petal Dance. Petal Dance is way too risky of a move to be using in a Nuzlocke run, but I did it anyway. And unfortunately, I did have to sacrifice my Meganium. Now, at this point, my team is looking really weak, so I do end up getting another encounter. It is an Ursaring, which is a pretty powerful Pokemon by itself, but will it be enough to carry us going forward in the game? I don't know. We're just going to have to see, but, you know, essentially here I do end up catching this Ursaring and, you know, using it on the team because obviously after losing not only my starter Pokemon, but also losing Meganium, I really need something that's going to be able to pick me up here and is going to be able to do well. Now, I do end up getting into a fight with this one scientist around. He has a Magnezone. Yet again, I switch into Braille here to go for the Sky Uppercut. Or the Mach Punch. I land the Mach Punch, but he does hit me with Mirror Shot and just one-shots my Breloom, so that's another death that happened because I was an idiot and didn't see that coming. So instead, I decided to kill him with a Dig off of my Hippowdon, and I essentially decided to switch into Crustle here, go for the Bug Bite. Does a decent amount of damage, and Future Sight isn't really going to be able to do too much to Crustle, and I am able to kill Bronzor. Now, on the next route, I do end up getting a Minior as an encounter. Not exciting. Minior is not the greatest Pokemon, I'm going to be honest with you. Pretty bad, actually. And overall, it was not the encounter I was looking for, but I did pick it up. Because like I said, even though it wasn't the best encounter, an encounter is an encounter, I have to use what I have given to me. At this point, Crustle and Hippowdon are really carrying the team. But yeah, so I end up meeting up with Alba on a bridge again, and so she essentially tries to release her Braviary, which essentially Braviary then gets attacked by a bunch of Rufflets, and Alba ends up getting pushed off, but Braviary actually ends up defeating all of the Rufflets and saving her, and Alba essentially realizes that Braviary just does not like to fight in Pokemon battles. It's not really the fact that Braviary hates her, it just doesn't like fighting in Pokemon battles. And so she essentially chases after it and says that one day she's going to be worthy enough to actually fight alongside Braviary. But I do head over to the next route, and I do get this Swallow as an encounter, as you guys can clearly see here. And Swalow's a pretty decent Pokemon. I don't have a problem using a Swallow. Now, the team that I do have, unfortunately, is very slow, so I don't really think it's going to help out too much, but it does know Toxic, which Toxic is just better Poison Powder, so honestly, I had to say, like, just that Toxic, you know, like, every turn, it doing more and more damage, it's just going to be super, super helpful, but it is also extremely risky, I will have to say that, for trying to capture this Pokemon, but luckily I was able to capture it in my first Ultra Ball. But right after that, we do end up meeting up with Owen, who wants to have another fight, and this was one of the hardest fights I've had in the entire game. I'm just gonna, even without Hail, which was, like, my biggest issue with fighting Owen last time, this man, he just, oh my god, I had to Toxic the Glaceon, I had nothing else for the Glaceon. We had a Toxic, we had to go for an Encore here, and just pray to god that that happened. I go for the Acid Spray here, doesn't really do much of anything. He full heals yet again, so I have to go for another Toxic. He switches out into Mantine, so I go here for the Toxic. After we get the Mantine up, I decide to switch in the Banger. He does hit me here with a crit. I get really unlucky there as well with the Aerial Ace. Switching as an Ursaring, still doing like a decent amount of damage, but as long as he has a crit, I should be able to live. I get the return off with the Poison Powder. At this point, I'm just like, hey, I gotta heal stall with a Hyper Potion. He full restores, so that Toxic is gone, and all progress that I just made is just lost. So at this point, I'm just slashing because that's literally the thing that I can do. It's literally like the only thing that's going to be doing damage. Luckily, I was able to kill the Mantine here with a slash, but Ursaring does have low HP. So I had to send in Heliolisk. I decided to send in Tank that. We go here for the Earthquake, which is massive. We get the one shot on the Heliolisk, which is great. Has a Magmar, stay in. Luckily enough, we get that Earthquake yet again, even though it gets the one shot, even though I'm burned, which is like super lucky. I switch back into Swallow on the Glaceon, go for the Toxic again, and essentially just kind of Toxic stall it because there's really nothing else I can use that would hurt the Glaceon without having a chance for it to kill me. He starts off with his Fire Psychic starter now, and at this point it's either I use Tank that or I use Banger. Those are really like my only two options. At this point I was kind of like just wondering like what can I do. Crustal's out here getting freaking annihilated by a flamethrower. He's just going to keep using flamethrower. It's just going to do a lot. I luckily live one more flamethrower. I do get the X-Scissor off. It does nothing that I'm on whatsoever. And at this point, it's like I'm going to have to either just pray or I'm going to have to go for the sack here. So in mad desperation and, you know, kind of just like thinking through, hey, what am I going to be able to do? Who's going to be able to take a hit? What can I do? I'm thinking maybe I should sack the Ursaring, maybe I should sack Bayonet, even though I do want to use a Mega Bayonet. I decided to go into Tank that. Flamethrower, luckily enough we tank that, but I do die to the burn, so at that point it was just like, what was I going to do? Get a free switch into Swalot, I get the Toxic off, and at this point I just have to heal stall. I have my last Hyper Potion there, the Flamethrower, it's not doing too much damage. And I gotta say, I just get really lucky here. I land the Body Slam, and he dies to both Sandstorm and the Poison. And he still has the Glaceon, and at this point, I'm really wondering, like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna be able to live or get through this fight without Tank that, or without, like, Crustal? My entire team is weak. What am I possibly gonna be doing? What Mon do I have that can live this fight? Like, this is such a hard and difficult battle for me. And I switch out into Bayonet because I really don't have anything else. There really isn't anything else that I can do here. And I decide that I'm just going to go for the Sucker Punch. I Mega Evolve and go for the Sucker Punch. It's the only thing I can do. Yeah, luckily enough, you know, we don't get the kill there, but hey, we get the kill and I get through that fight. It was really lucky that I got through that fight, but hey, I got through it. Match that we end up being up with Sarah again, which is really cool. So obviously she's a champion yet again. And essentially we ask her, hey, do you know the location of Manaphy? Because we know that the Menace Corporation wants Manaphy, and that's what we're kind of heading for. So she ends up telling him that, yo, there was people who earlier came and asked, and I ended up telling them, and so they were, you know, connected to the Menace Corporation, so that was a bad thing. So, you know, maybe we should go stop them, maybe we should go save Celebi, and, you know, see everything that's going on within Amethyst City. So after that, I go ahead here, and I do get a static encounter on the next route, which is going to be a Victory Bell. So yeah, Victory Bell, pretty alright mon, not great, not bad, just kind of, just okay. It's just okay. It's a grass poison type, which that typing is not the greatest, honestly. But at this point in time, like, my team is so weak, and I need so many encounters that I will take anything. But hey, I make it. So before dealing with any of the gym leader or any of that nonsense, there was one trainer on the route overall that I kind of, the route over from the town, that I wanted to go ahead and just kind of grind a little bit before I end up fighting him and kind of like trying to figure out more of what's going on with the location of Manaphy. And he had a Lycanroc, and he had one more Pokemon that I, for some reason, I think I zoned out when it happened. It was a Whiscash, which anybody with a brain knows Whiscash is a water ground type Pokemon. I sent out Swalot, which is a poison type Pokemon, and for some reason I just did not think about this thing having magnitude on it. When it hit me with the magnitude 9, and it just one-shot me straight up. So yeah, I was able to kill it with my Weeping Bell, but yeah, I did bloop Swalot there. But yeah, we do go ahead here and just head into the gym, and we end up seeing the Psychic type gym leader for the first time. And apparently this guy was returning a book late, and now his Slow King is essentially just, you know, kind of holding him up by his psychic attacks. And he tells him, hey, yo, you better be quiet in the library. So after going through a very tough, and I mean very tough trainer battle, this trainer battle right here for this gym is insane. I've never seen a trainer battle be this hard for no reason. Like, who just randomly decides, yo, in a psychic gym, I'm just gonna give them a Gallade. It's not even the gym leader. It's just a random trainer. It's crazy, especially with Psycho Cut at level 43. Like, dog, like, he was doing so much damage to me. It was really, 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 really bad. Like, it was just bad. Like at this point, it was like I literally had nothing I can essentially do. I had to sack one of my mons to be able to get this fight. If I did not do that, I was not going to be able to get through. Yeah, I'll go ahead and use the Super Fang there and just get one shot. And it's like, dude, there's just nothing I can do there. I just had to trust in Crustle here and just pray to God X's are killed, and luckily enough it did. And as soon as he was about to change, I decided to switch over here into my Weepin' Bell, but I don't, and that's because they have a Gardevoir as well. Why do they have a Gardevoir? I don't know. They have not only a Gallade, but a Gardevoir. They just really had to make it difficult. Decided to switch in Big Cheap here. Luckily, they go for the Magical Leaf, which doesn't do that much damage on me, but they do end up killing me the next time they use a Psychic Attack. I will switch in the Bayonet, and the only thing I can do here is Mega Evolve, go for the Sucker Punch. That's literally like what I had to do. I said Mega Evolve, go for the Sucker Punch, then finish it off with a Shadow Ball. So after that, after I beat a few other trainers and I go through a small little book puzzle, I do end up getting to Lawrence, which is the Psychic type gym leader, and this is by far the hardest fight in the entire game. I said, say, this guy is cracked. So he starts with a Wobbuffet. Now, obviously, everybody in the mama knows what Wobbuffet does. Counter, and I believe it's not Mirror Shot, but it's essentially the special version of Counter. Mirror Coat. I think that's what it is. It's Mirror Coat. But, yeah, no. So I'm terrified out of my mind, but I start off with Mega Bayonet because what else? Lands Mirror Coat, one shots my Mega Bayonet. At this point, this battle is over. I'm just gonna be honest with you. My team is not made for this. I switch into Crustle. We get the X-Scissor. Luckily enough that I was able to kill the Wobbuffet. We didn't get a Destiny Bond, thank God. But Slowking, that's a water type. He's just like, what do I do here? I Shell Smash to try to get some stats up. I'm at full health. Scald, doesn't matter. One shot. It was super effective. There was nothing I could do. You know, because I can't switch in, and so I go for Feint Attack on Ursaring. He forces a switch out. I decide to stay. I use Leaf Tornado. Does nothing. Get the Size Shock. He gets the one shot. Literally, like, there was nothing I could do. Ursaring, I use Feint Attack. Super effective. Uses Dragon Tail yet again. Force swaps out the Minior. Nothing I could really do about that. I could try Cosmic Powering, which is what I try doing since I'm at full health. Uses Ice Beam. Does half my health. What do I do at this point? Go for the takedown. I miss. Lands another Ice Beam. My Minior dies. At this point, all I have left is Ursaring. I try Feint Attacking. He full heals. I got a crit. I got really lucky there. I get a crit. Feint Attack. No crit. Ice Beam. I'm still alive. You get the Feint Attack, so we kill the Slowking. It's nice. Still has two other Pokemon. Oh, he has a Gallade, which is definitely gonna have a fighting move. I have to Hyper Potion. It's all I could do. Oh, it's a Mega Gallade as well. It's not even normal. It's Zen Headbutt. Oh, that did over half my health. What do I go over here? Slash Zen Headbutt. Boom, one shot. Run is over. Like we're done. Like, I passed out. Game over. Even there, even the title screen when you lose says game over. So yeah, no guys, that is going to be my run of Pokemon Realidea System. I hope you enjoyed me kind of fumbling through. I'm sorry if a lot of parts of this feel sped up or kind of whatever. This was like a really random run I decided to do. I did not know how hard this game is going to be. I knew it was a random run, and I do actually want to go back and finish it. I do really like the story for this game. I know I was a little bit kind of easing over some parts and speeding through some things, but hey guys, like, I genuinely do believe this is a really amazing fan game. It's one of the best fan games I've definitely ever played. And I do want to come back with another run. I think if I do another run, I'm going to pick the Fire Starter. I just think the Fire Starter is honestly the best one you can pick when it comes to these runs because of his secondary typing. That Water Dark typing is just so garbage. And also my luck with encounters was also pretty bad, so that also counts up to it. But yeah, That's gonna be it for me, guys. If you guys really want to see me do another run of this and finish it, yet again, you guys know what to do. Subscribe, like the video. If we can get this video up to like 100 likes, I'll definitely be doing another run of Rowlet Data System. But hey, if you guys also are interested in playing the game for yourself, it is going to be in the description below. If you guys made it all the way to the end of the video, go ahead and comment down below. Rev L, you know, big L's for Rev, you know, you put that down in the comment section below, because I want to know if you guys actually watched all the way to the end or not. But yeah, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Hopefully, if I do more challenge runs like this in the video, or you know, if I do other content as well that you guys see and you like, you know, you guys subscribe and you guys check it out. So yeah, hope you guys really enjoy that video, and I will see you guys on the next one.